What's up, YouTube? Welcome to my humble abode, aka the place I allegedly, theoretically live. Today I'm going to be going over my boss Vader Grom clone, showing you how to stunt it out, going over each individual part and its functionality to include the engine and what modifications you might need if you want to swap this to a ZS212, and where to get the bike itself shipped right to your door. Ignore the boots in the corner, I spaced them out so if someone breaks in they think I'm gigantic. And with that being said, let's get into this. So, getting started with this, I have a full list of all the parts I've installed and all the modifications I've done to this thing. We're going to try to go piece by piece, system by system, and go over everything in totality. Some parts I'm not going to be able to get to because I don't have certain tools to pull it all the way apart, but I can give you a good idea on everything. So mainly, let's talk about what this bike is like completely stock. When you get this bike stock, it's going to have the forks, it's going to have most of the components that it has, but I've obviously swapped quite a few things. The main thing being this engine right here. This is the ZS212. I got it off Alibaba for, I want to say, $500 or $600 shipped. And swapping to this engine is not the most difficult process in the world. There's a tiny bit of wiring involved where you have to splice and cut certain wires. That only took about 10 minutes, and there is a very good video on YouTube already about doing that. The main things you have to do swapping to this motor to make sure it's secured and not rattling around like the stock engine can do. Upgraded bolts, that's the main thing. You're getting 3/8 bolts, 5.5 inches long. You could pick them up at any hardware store. And for the engine itself, you're gonna have to get a 3/8 drill bit. Pretty long one, probably a 5-inch one. Again, you could pick that up at Home Depot or wherever your local hardware store is. You're going to hone out the engine pathways for the bolt. Very easy process. A little bit of oil takes about 40 seconds. And down here, if you look, there's a third motor mount plate. This is welded to the actual frame. Now I actually make these, and I haven't really seen anyone else make them, not too often, so if you need one of these plates, shoot me a message. Works for this motor, works for the stock motor, works for any Honda generic motor you put in this thing. Other than that, the engine's generally plug and play. We'll stick with the engine for now and go over everything that I've done to this specifically. So once I swap the motor, one of the main things is right here. This is the little sensor that goes into your engine that tells the bike what gear you're in. Now the speedo that comes with this bike is capable of showing 5 gears, but it only shows 4 obviously because of the stock motor only being a 4-speed. Once you swap that over from the old engine into this, and it's a very simple process, you pull this cover off via the 8mm bolts, you pop that out, and it's got 2 Phillips screws on it. You can swap that over. Again, there's another video on YouTube just for that. Once you get that all done, everything's plug and play. It will show 1 through 4, and your 5th gear, it won't show. It'll just go blank when it comes to the gears, but obviously you have your 5th gear still. The next thing I did to the engine itself is the gearing. I swapped the front sprocket to a 428 instead of the 420 that comes with this bike. It's originally supposed to have a 420 chain. It's nice to upgrade to a 428 because you get a little more strength, a little less flex out of that chain. You're going to damage it a lot less. Not that you're damaging it, but over time it's going to stretch and this takes a lot longer. Ignore the dirtiness of my bike. I definitely have been running this thing ragged. It's time for a wash. Either way, front sprocket, I went up 1 tooth. Rear sprocket, I swapped to a 36. 36 is perfect if you're a 150-pound person. I could pop it up in first. Honestly, you don't need to clutch, it'll power wheelie. Second gear, it's perfect for popping this thing right up, getting a balance point. Third gear, you can as well if you're yanking on the thing. When it comes to standing up on the stunt pegs, you can really do that in third, fourth. The bike doesn't really care too much. The next thing I did on the engine was I upgraded the carburetor to a Nibby PE28. This is the perfect carburetor for an engine like this. If you're going to keep the stock motor, that's a 125, you're going to want to stick in a PE24 or PE26 size range. This is perfect for this motor. Also with that, I went ahead and got a foam filter because occasionally, if you're really turning all the time, your forks might try to hit your air filter unless you get a special plate that allows this to rotate and move out the way. Right here. It would mount right at the base of that. But honestly, not too necessary. Tuning one of these Nibby carbs is kind of finicky in the beginning, but as soon as you understand it, i.e. 20 minutes later, it's a very simple process. The next thing I did was install this oil cooler right here. This oil cooler is a generic for a 125 or 200cc. You can pick these up on Amazon or eBay. I bolted mine to a bolt point that's right up against the frame. It's in a perfect placement. It's catching air, doesn't move around. And obviously it comes with 2 steel lines. So these steel lines, usually this right here would have a hose running between these 2 bolts. It would have its own sort of bypass. You're gonna bolt it right on there, make sure everything's tight. You're gonna fill your oil, allow the bike to run for a little while, and then check it again, because you're gonna pull a decent amount of air out of that actual oil cooler. The next thing I did, which is not completely necessary at first, but the way I like to ride this thing, it is essentially only stunted. Occasionally bring it to work and back. Either way, I replaced the clutch plates and the clutch springs. I did that because I wanted some that would last a little longer, seeing that I'm always slipping the clutch, always dropping the clutch. The stock one is gonna last you a while. It's actually pretty well built. It's a dirt bike clutch. This engine is generally designed for dirt bikes, and you'll be able to tell once you turn it on. It sounds just like one. The process is very simple. There's more tutorials online. If anybody needs to know how to do that, I can pull mine apart and swap it anyways, because honestly, it's like $30. Oil filter is right here. This is just a generic Honda Grom oil filter. It'll use the exact same one. One thing I had to do here was this little point where the stock brake lever was hitting the engine. I shaved it down a little bit so that it doesn't interfere with anything. It's not absolutely necessary, but I prefer to have as clean of a build as possible. You can obviously have a Kickstarter, but with the pegs and rear sets being where they are, it's really not ideal, and you already have a starter motor installed in this engine when you get it out the box. You got a sight glass, which is very handy, and just like any normal bike, you're going to want to run a nice oil through it. For my stunt bikes, I prefer to run Rotella T6 on 600s, and for an engine like this, I run Rotella T4. Also, I use a little bit of Lucas additive. I'll show you guys that in a second. Well, I'm out of Rotella T4, which is quite alarming, so I'm going to fix that tomorrow. But either way, here is the Lucas synthetic oil stabilizer. I use this in the Rotella T4 and the Rotella T6. Learned it from Brian636, shout out him. And yeah, that's that. The last 2 things I'll go over for the engine, since that basically covers everything, is this purple hose right here. That is going from the overflow of the carburetor, and it's running all the way back here, because when you're at 12 o'clock, occasionally the carburetor likes to dribble a tiny bit of fuel. That's not really the biggest issue, but I'd rather it spill back there than spill on the, burning hot engine. Also, the exhaust. I got a low mount exhaust from eBay, and I hooked mine up. I retrofitted it to a Two Brothers that one of my buddies trimmed and made a little bit shorter, and just mounted it to the back of the rear set where the rear pegs would go, because I'm not really having passengers on this thing. It's not designed for it. Very easy to do. Make sure when you get an exhaust for this, you're ordering the crush washers with it. Very, very, very important. Otherwise, you're gonna have a gnarly exhaust leak. So from there, let's start with the handlebars and all the modifications up here. I swapped over to KLX 110 Pro Taper bars. These are perfect. They'll take impacts. They're risen a little bit compared to the stock ones. The stock handlebars that come with this thing, they're not very good. Honestly, if I really tried, I could probably bend them with my own hands. Those will only take 1 impact. These have taken a decent amount of bounces. And if you're riding road legal, of course, pick yourself up some of these little Amazon side mount mirrors. They're perfect. They're like $10 for a pair, and you can use them on either side. Both of them are universal, so when you break one, just swap it over to another. Very easy fix. Starting from left to right, obviously my grips. I put a little grip tape under it so that it doesn't move around on me. I have my Brembo. My Brembo is running to my rear caliper, which I will go over that in a minute. Right now, I have an RSC clutch lever, a 1-finger. These are amazing. The feel is amazing on all RSC products, honestly. It's the best one I've ever had. But if you don't want to use this and pay out the, $150, $200 or so, whatever it costs to get it, you can pick up a universal on eBay, a little 1-finger, 2-finger. It'll do the trick. I got a new clutch cable because the one that comes stock with the Boom or the Boss Vader, again, same bike basically, is kind of garbage. I don't know what material they make it out of, but it just eats itself alive within a week and it'll start getting stuck. So I got an upgraded one online that's really just meant for like a 110, 125cc dirt bike. Ran that through. I rerouted all my cables to my own liking. That's something you're gonna wanna do because you wanna make sure no matter what, you have freedom of movement in these bars. You never want it to lock up on you. My front brake is also a Brembo RSC 18. I'm running these to a little ghetto bracket system, some custom brackets I made. Honestly, it's preferable to have your masters right down here, your reservoir cups. Have them a little lower than the bars. I've learned this from experience because this one used to be right up here alongside the other one. Looks cool, that's great, easy to fill, but when you mousetrap, which, you know, it's kind of inevitable sometimes, you're gonna body check these, front flip over your bike, land on your helmet, and wonder, oh, why is my brake fluid everywhere? I don't know, I'm slipping, oh my God. Also with the bars, I replaced the left and right switch consoles. These are just universals I got off Amazon. They're perfect because the stock ones that come with the Boom or Boss Vader are going to have an issue about, I want to say 2,000 miles into riding them. The contacts in them just kind of wear out and short out. So it's easy to swap over. If you're good at all with electrical, it's a rather simple process. Plus, you know, you get something that feels a little nicer and it's gonna take up way less space on the bars because the stock ones took up like, yeah, just way too much room. Here's another one too. Right here, I replaced the stem nut. So the one that comes with the Boss Vader it has a, you know, cap over the top. It doesn't allow you to see into this. And it's just barely too short for it to actually tighten all the way. So this washer under it would spin. So I got a little upgraded one off the internet, probably eBay, and that absolutely did the trick. And check this out, this little baby Cornwell flathead. This is something you should just keep on your bike, just always keep with you. Because if you're going up mountains, down hills, different, you know, altitudes with this bike, occasionally you're gonna wanna mess with the carburetor. Or if the weather changes dramatically and you're out and about and it's sputtering on you, you can fix it with that. This is the handiest tool on this bike. Over here, you'll see I upgraded to a Nibby throttle. It's a quarter turn throttle, far better than the stock one. I trimmed mine down just the palm length because, you know, I felt like it. And a Nibby throttle cable. Just, you know, might as well keep it all cohesive. But regardless, this throttle is so much more responsive than anything you can really buy for this bike. One thing though, it is very twitchy, so it's gonna teach you very good throttle control very quickly. That's the best part about this. Once you learn this throttle, you're gonna be good on basically any bike when it comes to throttle adjustment because it's just second nature at that point. A quick little disclaimer for the front end. Some things you're gonna wanna make sure you do is once you swap these bars over, you wanna make sure you really tighten these bolts down. Don't absolutely strip or snap them, but make sure they're tight. Because when you land a wheelie, if these bars move on you, that's gonna be a whole world of hurt in its own right. Also, the ignition. The ignition right here, once you pull this front end off for whatever reason, or you're going to swap to new covers or wire in some little, you know, short flush turn signals because the stock ones come out to like here. Blue Loctite, or honestly even red Loctite them. Make sure this doesn't move because I had an issue where my ignition started coming loose and it caused the steering lock to basically lock up mid-stoppy. So I could only go left. Luckily I was able to stop in time and not completely eat it, but it could have been a lot worse. The wheel could have locked up on me in a turn while I was on the road going 40, 50 miles an hour, and that could have been a very bad scenario. With these forks. So the forks, honestly, the ones that come with this bike are really amazing. I've landed this thing about as hard as you can possibly land it, maybe 1,000 times over. They have never blown a seal. I don't know what they're doing in China to make these forks, but they're doing it right. The only thing I did was I drained the forks. I, you know, jacked up the front end, pulled these forks out after pulling the wheel off. I emptied them and I filled them with a 30 weight fork oil. Again, I'm 150 pounds, so for me, it's absolutely perfect. They'll take stoppies. You don't ever get wobbles on the thing. It'll take any impact you need it to. And a cool little cheetah print, because why not? While I'm up here, I might as well show you some of the cool features. So the Boom Vader comes with this cool little color changing dash. Once it loads up, you can change the color to, you know, a plethora of different colors. It's actually pretty nice. I prefer to keep it on purple because, you know, that's my thing. You've seen my Suron. Also, the fairings for this bike. So they basically look exactly like Grom fairings, SF Grom fairings, but they're slightly different. So if you want to swap fairings, you either have to go and get boom Vader fairings, Boss Vader fairings, or you have to buy the entire set of Grom fairings because certain bolt points are a little different. Regardless, it will mount right up to the bike frame and it won't be an issue. This seat cover is something I highly recommend. You don't have to get thrill seekers, but I highly recommend these guys. I mainly got it, other than the fact that it looks cool and it's super custom with my name on it, because of these right here. These will hook on your pants, and when you're wheeling, you won't be sliding off the seat like the stock one. Kind of annoying when you're sliding off mid-wheelie. Right here, just like all my bikes, always gonna say this, I run 2 trackers on every single bike. God forbid someone steals your bike, you know, anything could happen. You're gonna have active location, and if one tracker fails, second one's not gonna. That chance is about as good as you winning the lottery. Also, since I'm me and I like scaring people, I custom wired a car horn right here. And it's a little too loud, to be honest. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh yeah, my ear's ringing. My ear's ringing. Hi dog, how you doing? How you doing? For the rear end, I went and got an eBay integrated Grom taillight. Pretty easy to wire. If you want your turn signals to not flash too quick, you're gonna want an ohm resistor, which you can find also anywhere online. They're extremely cheap. You just wire them into parallel. This Crash Industries bar. So this is one thing. There's a million stunt bars for Groms. It'll bolt right up, whichever one you get. I'm a big fan of the Crash Industries. The peg placement.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Phenomenal. They'll take bounces. They do not even care.
What the hell is even that?
Everything is honestly placed in the right point, except for the fact that I haven't scraped it yet because, yeah, I don't know. I gotta fix that. Either way, integrated taillight's nice because you don't need these big old, you know, the stock bike is gonna come with the whole tail fairing that has the signals, and it's hideous and ugly, and you're gonna break it when you wheelie too high. Kind of annoying. You might as well go ahead and get rid of all that. You could either get a Crash Industries bar, which already comes with a license plate mount, or you can get a, I forget the name of them. Down here by the rear sets, you'll see I have a kind of modified shifter. So usually it's the whole linkage thing that goes to the rear sets here. I don't like the linkage. Way too much play, way too much annoying stuff to deal with. The stock shifter that comes with this engine, it's this one. It's like this long. It's way too far for your foot to reach. So I cut mine and I welded it here right where I need it. It's perfect, absolutely perfect, almost zero play. That does the trick for me. You can buy ones online. You can buy them from Tusk, Amazon, eBay, wherever you need. But honestly, if you have access to a welder, I suggest just cutting the stock one that comes with the ZS212, or even the Boom Vader if you get that, and just shortening it, putting it where you need. Make sure you check placement, and you're good to go at that point. Also, these right here are just some nylon pegs that I got off the internet. I don't know what they were specifically for or where I found them online, but all I did was run a washer and bolt through the center of them, so when this bike falls over, it's gonna hit these pegs first. Worst case scenario, they snap, they bend. There's not enough, you know, strength in this nylon to actually bend the bolt. It's gonna be an easy process. This hole is not usually in the rear sets. I don't know why I put it there. I did it for some good reason, but we're gonna pretend it's not there. One thing I totally forgot about the engine. Not necessary, but it's something you're gonna wanna do eventually if you have one of these engines. Pretty cheap to do, pretty easy to do. When you pull this cover off, you'll see the starter chain. So the starter chain has these 2 buffer pads that keep it, you know, properly tensioned. There is an upgraded starter chain you can get because over time these ones tend to stretch out over long usage. And again, it's really a pretty quick fix. Might as well go ahead and do that. I'll add the link below. Back here, I have a different swing arm. Also, the stock swing arm, the adjustment is in these plates on the back that have a bolt running out from them. If you really rip the thing, there's a tendency to bend those plates inward, which would completely throw off your alignment. So I went and got a high-tech one off of, I believe, Amazon or eBay. Cost like $200-300, something of the nature, and threw that on. So if you're, and it's also aluminum, not steel, so a little bit lighter, a little bit stronger.
If you're gonna throw one of these on, or any swing arm, sometimes the bushings you're gonna have to shave down a tiny bit just to get them to fit. I just did that with a little grinder, a little disc grinder I had, and honestly everything else bolted right up perfectly. When I go down here, the rear shock. So this is something pretty important. The stock rear shock will work, but it's not the best in the world. I went through, I'm not even kidding, like, I don't know, 5, 6 shocks till I found one I like. I don't even have the brand name for this, but I'm gonna try my best to find it. Try to get a rear shock with a dampener. With a dampener knob, that is everything. You wanna set it a little high, it'll really help you bounce this thing up easier. It'll make your life so much better in the long run. Now to my favorite part of the bike. Rear braking setup. So I have this Brembo P32 running to my foot brake, and I have this Brembo P34 running to my handbrake. A P34 is much stronger. There's a tendency to mousetrap in the beginning until you get used to how powerful the brake is, especially seeing I'm running it on an oversized rotor. Via this bracket, I have an MKS double caliper oversized rotor bracket for a Grom. It's amazing. The quality is everything you could ever ask for. But if you don't want to mousetrap too much, or you don't need that much braking power, I suggest just getting 2 P32s for both. At the end of the day, it's going to save you a little bit of heartbreak. I mousetrapped 1 or 2 times so far, and wasn't the worst thing in the world. You know, I always wear my gear when I'm riding, but it's touchy. But as soon as you get comfortable with a caliper like this, you'll be rocking. The front caliper, I kept the stock one that came with the bike. It does the trick. It's not terrible. It's a little weak, but also just enough to do stoppies. So I kind of enjoy it because I'm not afraid I'm gonna completely somersault over the front of the bars every time I stoppie. It has enough power to do what, you know, I need it to do. Other than that, there's not too many modifications absolutely necessary for this bike. Honestly, just a few of the modifications are all you need to stunt one of these out. I suggest getting a rear cage because that's going to protect the bike. That way it only hits on these and the bars, and if you bounce hard enough, maybe it'll hit your shifter on this engine or the other. And a handbrake setup. That's if you run a handbrake. Some people just like to use foot brake, and that's fine. Now that I've covered all that, let's go over some of the important things you're going to want to keep to have any bike, or a bike like this specifically. Like I was saying earlier, you're going to want a synthetic oil stabilizer. It's just a lot better for the engine in the long run. You mix a little bit of that every time you put the oil in. I only put about, let's say, 2 capfuls. Also, for the forks, I use this Bel-Ray fork oil, 30 weight. This is absolutely perfect for it. I haven't had a single issue with the fork since I swapped over. When it comes to your brake fluid, I can't stress this enough. I tell everybody I know, run a .4 because some people don't, and that blows my mind. I prefer Motul 660 or Motul 600. Both honestly have a very similar feel. The 660 I prefer more. I'm not even quite sure why. It might just be a mental thing, but maybe the higher number is why I like it. Either way, I use a Motul chain lube, and yeah, that pretty much covers it for the chemicals that I use on this bike. Everything else is, yeah, pretty simple. Here are some of the parts that I've had to use for the bike. I keep extra brake pads, gaskets, I keep engine gaskets. Here are some stiffer clutch springs, which I am not going to use because once you upgrade the clutch springs, way tougher to pull. A couple extra rotors laying around here. Here's the stock shock that came with it. Here's one that I blew within 43 seconds of riding. And here's one that blew before it even arrived and got out of the package. Kind of just is what it is. Right up here, these are surround parts, sorry. Right up here is my old clutch. I keep it just in case I need it, but really don't. Another thing is these right here. These are for your rear wheel. These are the CUSH drive. Go ahead and get a Grom OEM CUSH drive because the one that comes in a Boom Vader, Boss Vader, tends to eat itself up as well over, I'd say, 1,000 miles. Not the biggest problem in the world, but you will notice it after a while. And a stock sprocket. That is a 16 tooth, so that means I must have gone to a 17. Here's the original starter chain right here. The upgraded one is just a little bit beefier, and the stock buffers. So that pretty much covers basically everything about this bike. All the modifications done. If you guys have any comments or questions, make sure to let me know. I'll make sure to get right back to you. Overall, this thing is a phenomenal stunt machine. I couldn't ask for a better trainer. It'll do anything you need. It'll teach you all the dynamics of a normal bike and keep you safe in the meantime, because it's not the heaviest thing and it's not the most expensive thing. With that being said, like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate all y'all, and peace. Sheep on the ground, got a sheep on the ground. Sheep on the ground, got a sheep on the ground. Sheep on the ground, got a sheep on the ground. What you doing? What you doing? What you doing? What you doing?